Hi guys, welcome to the latest dispatches. In this case, this is for the month of September, and what you see before you is a selection of all of the items that we are releasing throughout the month. And as I hope you can see, it's quite a little conglomeration. All kinds of different figures from all kinds of different King and Country series. Everything from ceremonial figures to Vietnam to the Old West and even the jungles of Kokoda in Papua New Guinea, and of course streets of old Hong Kong. So let's take a closer look at what actually we've got. Let's begin with 4 figures from the Real West series. And of course, part of the Real West is the cattle drive. And among the cattle drive figures that we've been releasing over the last 12 months or so, some of the most popular have been Mexican figures. And we've had many requests and suggestions from collectors to actually produce more of them. So we like to, wherever possible, satisfy the demand. So let's begin with this particular figure here. Now this is a single figure of one of the most famous Mexican revolutionary figures. This is Emiliano Zapata. Zapata was involved in just one of the many revolutions that took place in Mexico in the late 19th and early 20th century. And he's probably one of the most famous of those revolutionaries. Unfortunately, he met a rather sad end. He was assassinated in 1919. But he's been featured in many books and certainly 1 or 2 famous movies, including one where none other than Marlon Brando played the part of Zapata. So as you can see here, he's obviously in fine revolutionary form. He's got his crossed bandoliers of rifle ammunition across his chest, and also over one shoulder is a long, colourful sash bearing the Mexican national colours. And he was photographed with those national colours on many occasions. So we decided that that would be a good idea to put it on the figure. Next to Zapata are a little 2-figure set. And this is a vaquero, a Mexican cowboy, who's obviously about to go someplace because his wife or girlfriend is presenting him with 2 rifle bandoliers that he can put over his chest. Quite a nice little colourful touch, and again it just adds a bit of extra flavour to the set. The final figure that we have here in the Real West has nothing to do with Mexico or Mexican revolutionaries. It's based on a very famous book, a bestseller in fact, called True Grit, that was written by Charles Portis in 1968. A year later it was turned into an equally famous movie of the same name starring John Wayne. And in fact, John Wayne won the only Oscar of his career playing the part of Marshal Rooster Coburn. The movie itself was remade in 2010 with none other than Jeff Bridges playing the same part. I love both movies and I love the book. So I decided to do a figure that was inspired by this fictional character. So here you have it, Marshal Rooster Coburn in all his glory. Another of the great things that I love about being part of King and Country is that I can travel all over the world and never leave Hong Kong. In this particular case, we've made a jump from the Wild West or Wild Mexico in the 1890s and turn of the century to Bonnie, Scotland, and then on to Hong Kong itself. What you see before you is our brand new pipes and drums of the Black Watch. Now, some of you will be familiar and maybe even own the first edition of the Black Watch pipes and drums that we produced about 18 months ago, wearing the red scarlet tunics as their parade uniform. But this year has been quite notable in Hong Kong because it's the 25th anniversary of the handover or hand back of Hong Kong from being a British territory to part of the People's Republic of China. That took place on the 30th of June 1997, and that was when British forces left Hong Kong, and they had a huge parade quite near where our head office is today. And part of that parade was the last British battalion to serve in Hong Kong, and that was the Black Watch. Now, they weren't wearing the red tunics, they were wearing the white tropical dress tunics that you see before you. So we thought it might be quite a nice idea to produce a special commemorative set of the Black Watch in the white tropical dress tunics to mark that 25th anniversary, but also as a reminder of a different time in Hong Kong's history. So here you have it before you. 13 figures, great little set, very colourful, and I hope you like it. Now, while we're talking about ceremonial occasions and parades and things like that, let me show you something a wee bit more unusual. Let's go back, not just to 1997, let's go back about 100 years before, to 1897, and let's move away from Hong Kong and let's go to the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was Vienna in Austria. And of course the ruler at that time was the Emperor Franz Joseph. Here, as the latest member of our Royals series, is a mounted figure of the Emperor Franz Joseph in one of his parade uniforms and mounted on one of his favourite horses. It's a very nice figure. In fact, it was very much influenced by statues that we saw of Franz Joseph and paintings that we researched on the internet. And I don't know why, but I've always been fascinated by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It's interesting that Franz Joseph himself had although he had a long reign, it was a fairly tumultuous one, and full of all kinds of revolts, rebellions, assassinations, and in fact, his heir was the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who a few years later was assassinated along with his wife in Sarajevo, in what was Yugoslavia. And that ultimately led to the outbreak of the First World War. However, we've decided to show this in rather happier times. So here is the man himself on horseback, saluting with a two-fingered salute. Just behind Franz Joseph are some other ceremonial parade figures, but far, far away from Vienna. These, in fact, are the Danish Royal Lifeguards, who you can still see on parade in these uniforms in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. As some of you may know, my wife Lisa has a little company called La Maison Rose, and they are the sole distributors of Royal Copenhagen ceramics here in Hong Kong. Lisa and myself both love Denmark, and we've been fortunate to be able to visit on several occasions, and we always make a point of going to the Royal Palace to see the Royal Guard parading. They're unusual, this Royal Guard, insofar as they have two ceremonial uniforms. They wear a single-breasted red tunic for state ceremonial occasions, but day-to-day ceremonial duties guarding the palace and parade, they wear a navy blue tunic uniform, and this is it. We just decided it'd be rather nice to produce some figures. Not only are we doing these marching guardsmen with the rifle, and they're all sold individually, but we're producing a marching drummer of the same regiment that will be released in a couple of months' time. So look out for those. But if you'd like to, if you ever get the chance to visit Copenhagen, I recommend that you go and see the guards on parade, on guard duty, outside the Royal Palace. It's terrific. It's a great sight to see. Well, let's go back to Hong Kong for a moment and talk about this little set that you see in front of you. This is our latest Streets of Old Hong Kong release. It's a great little set. It's a little lady who is what we call here a street food hawker. And that was someone that sells freshly made food and soup and what have you, actually on the street. Now, for many years, these were very familiar sights, and you can still see street food hawkers around Hong Kong, but not as many as there used to be. In this case, the lady is actually cutting up lengths of rice roll or vermicelli roll and putting it into a kind of soup mix with other mixed vegetables and fish balls and what have you. So you can get all kinds of different mixes in with your vermicelli roll, and that's what she's doing. It's a terrific little set, quite fun, and if you look closely at the detail, you'll be amazed at just, you could almost taste the food. It looks so good. So I highly recommended, so I hope you like it. Last month we launched our Kokoda series. These are the latest little additions. Now, Kokoda, as some or many of you may know, was a campaign that was fought in Papua New Guinea when the Japanese tried to invade and in fact capture the entire island and use it as a staging post to attack Australia. And it was one of the most bitterly fought campaigns of the Second World War, and one of the most arduous and strenuous and terrible, terrible conditions. But one of the things that helped the Australian side was the fact that the Japanese had very much alienated the local native population, and the natives, almost to a man and a woman, supported and gave help to the Australian troops. And here we've got a very nice little situation where we've got a Papua New Guinean native helping a wounded Australian back to a first aid station. The native bearer has got the Aussie's Lee Enfield rifle over his shoulder and is guiding the guy back down the path to hopefully rest and recuperation. But a neat little two-figure set, and something just a little bit different too. Hope you like it. Now, these days, any dispatches worth its salt is never without some kind of Vietnam release, and this month is no exception. We've actually got several, I think, very good and unique Vietnam releases. So let's begin with this one. This is our Viet Cong Sampan, along with the Sampan Soldier set. So we're actually combining two different sets here. As again, you might know, the Mekong Delta, which was the huge waterway that was all over southeast Vietnam, was made ample use of by the Viet Cong to move men, supplies, and material all over the area. So these little watercraft would be going up and down these little canals and waterways. They could hide during the day, they would travel by night. They were constantly on the move, and they would be taking people from point A to point B, allowing them to attack outposts and positions of the South Vietnamese and the American forces. And we just felt that this was something that we could portray in miniature. So this is what we've got here. We've got three little Viet Cong here in the front, and they're all sold together as a set. And at the back of the sampan itself, you've got another member of the crew who's actually, or the coxswain, who's guiding the boat down the waterway. Now, you can buy this as a single sampan with the coxswain. You can buy the figures separately, or if you prefer, and we hope you will, buy it all together, and you make almost a $20 saving if you buy it complete. So I'd recommend that you save in actual fact, $19, but it's a great little set, and it's a great add-on to the series, so I hope you like it. Now, if you've been following our Vietnam information that we've been posting on forums and on our own website and everything else, you may have seen previews of these two M151 Mutt Jeeps. These two, the M151 Jeep was actually the successor to the M38 Jeep, which was introduced after the end of World War II and was used through Korea. The M151 was slightly larger than the M38 and was actually brought into use in 1959 and continued in American Forces use and production until the 1980s. What we have here, of course, are two of the Vietnam versions, and they're both quite different, although obviously both vehicles are mounting the M60 machine gun. You'll see that this first one here is the US Marine Corps version, and this is suitable for any of the action scenes involving the USMC figures that King and Country are well known for in action during the Tet Offensive of 1968. So you've got a Marine gunner up behind the gun, obviously in action, and his driver is in front of him, and they're laying down fire on an enemy position. In contrast, the other set here is US military police. Again, USMPs were a frequent sight on all the streets of most large cities and towns in Vietnam, especially Saigon. And the unit that these particular guys belong to is the 716th Military Police Regiment, which was based in and around Saigon and guarded Tan Son Nhut Air Base, the Military Assistance Command headquarters just outside Saigon, and even the US Embassy in Saigon. If you look again closely at both Jeeps, you'll see that the Marine Corps Jeep has obviously had some pretty heavy use and is fairly dusty and not quite spick and span, whereas the military police version is obviously nicely polished and washed and what have you. So you can assume that this is perhaps pictured before the Tet Offensive took place in January 31st, 1968. Again, two great little sets, but available in late September. Hope you like them, and if you love Vietnam, I'm sure you won't want to miss either one of them, or perhaps you'll maybe want to get both of them. But that's about all I can tell you for this month. Not a huge number of releases, but some really unique pieces, and I hope something for, if not everyone, at least most people. Thanks again, and see you later.